everyone, and welcome to the Scratticus Academy. We are back today with some Dunera. After last week, I'm very excited about this. Otherwise, before we get started and say hello to all these lovely people, please check out the links coming up in chat now. That includes the Discord. We do have a channel just for Dunera, and we would love to hear what you think. Also, drop Scrat a DM on Twitter if you want to get into one of the viewer games. I run one of them, so come play Eberron with me because it's fun. Also, if you want to catch up on anything, you can head over to YouTube, and all of our games are in playlists for you to binge watch or catch up whatever episode you would like. A huge thank you to our amazing sponsors, who we couldn't do this without, in the form of Hero Forge. As we've shown they're coloured minis, which are really fab, and Scrat definitely did not accidentally break the sword off of, which we'll be sticking back together soon. But they're really fab, and we're doing some more stuff with them very soon. Also, the wonderful Mage Hand Press. You can now get their Dark Matter in hardback in store, which is super fab. This is basically D&D meets space, so I love it. Also, the wonderful Deck of Many. One of our viewer games is the Humblewood game. So you can drop Scrat DM to try and come and be in this show as well. And they also created the very wonderful Deck of Many Things and the Deck of Many Magic spell cards. Look at that raccoon. There it is. But yes, you can donate to have these in the game as well. They do affect the story. However, otherwise, let's head round and say hello to everyone. And we'll start, as we always do, with the very lovely Jagon's Gold. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. I am Jay, or Jagon's Gold, and I will be playing Paula Packer, our dancer librarian who's currently dad hunting and roped in a whole bunch of her friends, for better or for worse. We got into a lot of trouble. You know, Reese might have hypothermia, and there's a minor with us as well, so a lot of crazy stuff going on. But yeah, I'm very excited for tonight.
Awesome, thank you. And then we're gonna hop down and say hello to the lovely Tool School. Oh, hi.
Hey, how are you doing? I am playing Averick Caldwell, who is recovering from the worst potty break in the history of like TP RPGs. Truly just this will be a fun little something for a second that yeah. And let's see, what was it? A natural 1, a natural 2, then a natural 1 later. Yeah. Never good to find a night hag while you're having a potty break. So Averick's feeling a little guilty about not having gone before they left on their trip to the well, but I guess we're here. I guess it's gonna be okay.
And I think the internet cut out at the perfect time on that as well. I went back to check and it's utterly ridiculous, but I love it. Otherwise, we'll hop around and say hello to the lovely Mal. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi, I'm Mal. I'll be playing Reese Blackash. He's got a very big wolf, and he's very cold and wet right now, having taken quite the dip in the frozen lake full of giant eels. It was exciting.
All the eels, yes. Last but certainly not least, the lovely Sarah. Oh, hi.
Hey all, as always, I am so happy to be back here for Dunera. I play Florence Fetlock. She is a courier who used to carry letters for the City of Carnan Postal Service, but now she delivers messages for individuals who have passed from this plane and on to another one, whatever that other one may be. And recently we've been learning a lot about what that doesn't mean, and I'm excited to jump back into the story tonight.
Awesome, thank you. And last week we left our party as they reached this island. The ice around the lake was smashed, and these night crawlers and this night hag disappeared beneath the icy waters, and this thrashing of these eels and that sort of electrified statical glow is still what's really lighting the area at the cave that you're all in, as well as the fire set by Adrian. You can see Tuva with Rika piled on a load of sticks, and it's burning quite nicely. And you sit there, and it is cold. It is bitterly cold, particularly for you, Reese. Averick is drying out your clothes at the same time. Adrian has thrown one of his sets of furs over you to warm up. And you've all been handed out just something to eat as you sit around this campfire and try and warm up that little bit. And you can see the eels thrashing in the background, slowly dying down. What are all of you doing around this campfire?
What was the name of our tour guide again?
Adrian.
Adrian.
Right. I think Paul is probably at this point just kind of like keeping an eye on Adrian, skeptical as always. But also, you know, kind of looking around and questioning if her dad is out here, why? Was he running from this hag lady? Was he running from the night crawlers in the forest? She's just very confused and pondering all of these different things.
You've got the light sort of flickering off of Adrian's face, and every time you look at him, he seems to look up straight away. He also seems very aware of his surroundings, but at the moment he is just dividing up food and passing it around, looks at you with a little bit of confusion. But you do see him most of the time eyeing Reese, just as if trying to make sure at what, if he's okay. And you can see Astrid, this huge red wolf, is sort of steaming slightly by the fire as her fur dries off. What about Reese? How is Reese feeling?
I think Reese is very in his own head, and the only thing he's really trying to do is not fall asleep, because he knows with how cold he is, with how wet he is, the fact that he's probably got hypothermia, that falling asleep would be really bad.
And how about Florence?
I think as Florence walked up to the fire, she saw that kind of familiar figure of that little girl who seems to always be near where Reese is. So Florence has taken a seat kind of near where this form of this little girl would be, and she kind of, as she sits and kind of waits for food and enjoys this moment of rest, she kind of looks to that girl, or at least tries to catch her attention, and makes that same hand motion she did the last time she saw her outside of Paula's dance studio. And it's just a gesture to her, and then a gesture to her own chest, saying, or at least trying to convey, I'm here, and I'm gonna keep being here.
And she sort of, you can see her hand rests on Reese's shoulder, even though he doesn't seem to feel it. The singing has stopped, but she does look at you and smile, give you a slow nod, sort of repeating the same action that you just did. But she stays by Reese's side, and you can see as Adrian walks around, he passes straight through her without knowing. But she's there.
I think Florence doesn't need to go quickly. She doesn't plan on not being near all of these people anytime soon, so she's just going to keep patiently waiting for whenever this little girl seems ready to talk or to say something else. For now, she'll just kind of give her a kind smile and let her have her moment.
And how about Averick?
Averick is feeling very guilty, but Averick's always, I mean, his whole life has all but been a student, even a little bit when he was at Bruin Bindings of sort of learning how to do that. And he keeps sort of looking at the lake and where these eels have been devouring everything and how effectively they have just dispatched these horrible things that were chasing them. And so he looks to Adrian and goes, do you know, have you ever caught one of those eels, or do you think with your arrows and bow that we could fish one of those eels out?
He sort of looks and smirks at you from the corner. Like, yeah, no, I've caught one. They're right biters, though. You obviously don't want to use anything metal either. And he sort of taps the arrows on the back. He's like, I don't have any regulars left. And he looks, and you look at the tips of these arrows, and each one is made of this sort of shimmering stone. It's not one you've seen before, but it's definitely one you've read about. It's almost obsidian black, but it's got this purple tinge to it. This is an explosive rock. You know, if he hits one of those eels, you're not going to be able to eat it afterwards.
Right. Actually, he looks to him and goes, I'm not planning on eating it. I want to learn about it.
What do you want to learn about it? How big its teeth is, how much it can zap you, or what?
How it zaps people.
And he gives you a bit of a look. He's like, I mean, we can try get one for you if you really want to.
Well, seeing as the lake's now not ice anymore, we don't have a boat, and I assume we're probably going to have to somehow take a long way around to get back to the village, or however we're going to get back. We've stirred up a right hornet's nest of those things.
Sort of nods in the direction where you see the last few sort of lashing tails.
And it was kind of my fault, so I've got a crazy idea about if they come after us again that I might be able to do something like those eels do.
Is that what you people from the south do?
No, in fact, I just recently learned that I can do anything like this. But my magic that I used to wield was all about the water. And I can still do some of that. And if I can figure out how to do what they do, and he sort of basically pulls some of this water that he's been pulling out of Reese's clothes and sort of makes it into sort of like this long, almost whip-like thing. If I could, he sort of points out there where there's still these lightning, I could do that to this. It could be helpful.
And he smiles again. He's like, you're right there. That could be quite helpful. But this lake will freeze over in the next 10 hours or so. And where we're going is down, as he sort of looks to the back of the cave. But that could be pretty darn helpful.
Seeing as I've got to assume the forest was the easy part and the cave is probably the hard part.
No. You're good here, unless there's anything I don't know about. It's just a walk from here, really. A little bit, a few tight squeezes and low ceilings, but that's about it.
That's good. Well, I was just thinking if we could catch one before it freezes back over, maybe with this book, and he pulls out the book that Paula gave him, and he looks to Paula. You've studied it more than me, and I've still got all of my work that I did with Tolan and back at the academy. Maybe we can open it up and figure out what makes it spark, and if I can learn, then maybe I could spark.
I'd be happy to help any way I can. I mean, I'm gotta be honest, I use the book mainly for the pictures to help me come up with my dance routines, but I'm pretty familiar with how it's set up and where the different sections are, so I can help you find whatever you need.
And I look over Reese, and Reese, you have lived in the wilderness more than anyone. If you know how to field dress and open up something to preserve the organs inside, I figure maybe. I know you're not feeling great right now, but
I mean, it's been a while since I've done anything quite that intensive with preservation, but I think I can remember how to do that.
I mean, maybe maybe's not worth all the effort and we need to get to the well, but I don't know about y'all, but I felt pretty helpless out there.
No, I think you have a point. We're not in Karnan anymore, and it's not even like Karnan felt that safe in the first place, so I wouldn't be opposed to having a little extra defense.
Or really any. All I could do was run the last 2-3 times we got into trouble. I want to be able to do more than run.
Yeah, you're right. I want one of my mom's sniper rifles right now. That would be that'd be helpful.
Your mom's what?
Oh, she has it's a long story. She's got a couple friends and they have this club and they carry around guns, and I don't really know what it's all for, but
well, all right. That has to be one of the stories you share later.
it's not my story to share, but if we make it back to Karnan, I'm sure Aggie can tell you all about it.
I should have known Aggie was involved. Fair enough.
Adrian's giving you all a bit of a weird look as you backward and forth about a book and the sniper rifles and everything else. He sort of sat there just eating this dried meat, so like pulling on it. And Tuva at this point is like just taking bits off of hers and feeding it to this dragon that's tucked in her jacket with Rika at the side, just maintaining the fire. You see her get up every now and then to try and find more firewood. But Adrian looks at you and he's like, okay, let me get this straight. You're going to catch an eel. And first of all, how are you going to do that?
Well, I was hoping you were going to catch an eel.
You want me to catch you an eel?
It doesn't, I mean, I don't think we have to keep it alive.
I can catch you an eel.
Or work together to catch an eel.
Well, put it this way. What bits do you want intact?
I don't rightly know, because I don't know how it shocks. I don't know if it's all over its skin or if it's like a gland or maybe its skeleton. That's the problem. Since we don't have,
like we need it as intact as possible so you can dissect it.
Or try to, yeah.
Well, they don't like fast movements, put it that way. They're actually pretty They don't see too well. They do most stuff by movement and sense. If you hear them, you can hear them clacking their teeth together. But he sort of pauses for a moment. As intact as possible. And he sort of rolls up one of his sleeves, and you see him put on these. He takes off his mittens and puts on these long gloves, and you see they look to be made almost. It looks like a leather at first, but you say they almost fuse to his skin for a moment as he walks out down to this shoreline. And there's a bit of it where it juts out, just the tiniest bit where it's more of a drop. And you see him very slowly, even on land, lower himself down so that his belly is on like the snow itself. And even slower, he starts to put his hand.
Is he going to catch that with his hands?
Water.
I was thinking like, maybe he would shoot it with an arrow or something with a string attached. Is he about to catch an eel with his hands?
And he can't hear you. He's there like.
Oh, I know. Yeah, no, I'm like
water,
whispering this. I'm sort of like back in the campfire going.
And he probably knows what he's doing. Averick, relax. He's probably an old pro. He's been out here his whole life.
Should we help or stay away or?
I think it's probably best to leave this to the professionals.
He looks like he has it pretty well in hand.
I see what you did there.
It's a good one.
Someone should go down there just in case.
Yeah, go.
I mean, I'm happy, I guess. I mean, I try to catch his eye maybe and be like, do you want us to come help you?
And he looks at you, and the free hand he has got, which he's holding himself on the ground with, he's just. And there's a moment where you see his face turn back towards the water, and it is inches from the water.
If nothing else, Averick is ready to leap over there and like grab his ankles instead of this. If this eel starts taking him into the water, last we need is to lose Adrian or to have another wet party member.
And he lays there for about 10 minutes. It's a long wait in this silence. Every time someone goes to maybe make a noise or something, you see him hold up his hand. And soon there's a moment where you hear him make that chatter and clatter with his own teeth. And you can see that what looks like the top of the tiniest, not fin, it's almost like these razor fins along the top of this as it starts to swim and move through the water. And you see it go right up to where his face is. It doesn't come out of the water, but it hovers just above his arm. And you see him stand there and chatter more and more. And then almost in one quick motion, you can hear him heave himself as this water splashes, and these bits of ice where it started to form around this glove, he flings this huge eel-like creature onto the bank as it so you can see that metal and that static as it comes out before taking out one of his stone blades and just out and pins it to the ground. And that electricity, it stops dead, literally, with that electricity still running through it. And stands up, pulls off this glove, shakes off his hand. There you go. And walks back up towards the fire and drapes them over to dry off.
Averick is just there like, holy shit, y'all.
We eat them often.
Okay. So I think Averick pulls it up toward, somewhere where he can start to work on this. So I got a couple things that I'm assuming there's going to be some rules involved. I've got a couple different things that I'm wondering if I could have lend to this. I have Scavenger, which basically is about finding ciphers, but I mean, this is almost kind of trying to find this out. Maybe, you know, if that would count. And then I
would say you've got Reese in the party with you as well, who would have definitely, you know, if he's been living on his own and stuff.
Okay. So what would I be rolling to try to figure out or understand to somehow be able to incorporate this sort of shocking thing into either his, whether it's his skin or create a gland for himself, or basically you use his transmorphic stuff to basically give him an electric eel type effect.
Yeah, you could definitely roll just a straight up intellect or even perception, where I will say combine with Paula's book.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do, I don't have perception, but I'm going to go ahead and use this whole scavenger piece.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, scavenger.
Yeah, scavenger. And then I am definitely going to spend effort on this, and I can spend 2. Okay, I'm going to do it. That leaves me with only 1 point in my intellect pool. There's an intellect attack. I'm going to be in trouble, folks. No, I want to roll the dice down this goes. It's like I see my 2 nat 20s over there, but I want this to be, I want Averick to roll this. So I've got 2 effort, 2 assets. Difficulty on this, is this like a 7 or?
It's not a 7.
6, intimidating?
Yeah,
challenging.
Yeah,
6.
I'd say it's a 6 for you. Sorry, a 5 to work out what is making all of this. So I'll actually get you to roll twice, and then we'll decide.
Okay, well,
your idea for this.
Then, so I'm not going to use 2 effort on this one. I'll only use 1 effort on this one. So I've got an effort to use on the next one.
I mean, if we are still at the point of like dissecting it and more or less doing like the field dressing of things, I have enable others, so I could help without really having to do a whole lot.
That's awesome. What's that? So that's, I already have 2 assets though, which is as much as you can have. So, okay. So I've got it on difficulty 5. Let's see how it goes. With an 18.
On an 18, you look with both a mix of Reese sort of maybe going, not there, don't touch that. Adrian sort of coming to take his stone blade out again. He sort of passes you this stone blade rather than using anything metal, as you can see that electricity running through it. And I'll say, as you're sort of observing this, looking in the book, you can see that those spines that run from the top of its head all the way down to this eel's tail is this almost, it's like a red, like you would look at it as if it was like magma at one point, with the color that goes through it every time that electricity hits it, but it goes blue on the outside, and you can see that's because of the skin. The electricity itself is coming from the fin, and it runs itself through the skin.
Okay.
So the actual electricity is generated effectively in the fin itself, and it just happens to be that the way these eels are structured, it runs over the skin almost like as if it was rubber, just not touching it at all. Okay.
Ooh, this is cool. Going to be a cool visual too. So then can I spend 3 might points for my reconfigure to try to make my right arm basically have a ridge of these fins up them so that I can do this, and then because my reconfigure is a might thing, but it costs 3 for me to use it. So then it gets me in a might check where I still have some points.
Are you using an advantage or?
Well, let me, let me get into all the things that we've got, what I've got. So let me spend the 3 just to even do it. Then, so you were saying this is more like a 6 or a 7?
This is a 6.
A 6.
So to get a new ability from.
So the the reconfigure will give me 1 asset. I've already used 1. Is this considered same round? Can I only use 1 more effort?
I could say you could use another effort.
Well, I mean, because I have 2 efforts. I've used 1 on the last, so I can use the other one.
This is a different roll. This is
okay. So I can go ahead and go up and do 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have 2 edge in that. So that would normally be 6 points minus 2 points. So I have to take 4 more out of my might pool. Okay, Averick is. This is going to take a lot out of him, but he feels so guilty, and also kind of rule of coolness as well. So. Would Reese's enable others because he knows biology of animals and stuff help me here that he could use that, or because it's me trying to reshape myself? That's not really.
It's the reshaping thing more than anything else. I think Reese, you're more eating stuff if you catch it rather than anything else. I feel maybe.
So I am going to use an advantage. Difficulty 6, 1 asset, 2 effort. Come on, Averick. First time. And second one, he doesn't get it.
No.
He can't. It's new to him. I'm fine with the fact that he tries his hardest.
You sit there for a moment and it's almost like you're concentrating your arms over and over again. It's like you can see them trying to push up and try and create, but it doesn't work. It looks like it's really trying, especially as you look at this eel and then back at your arms as you're really trying to almost force it, but it's almost too knackering after all the running you've done and after everything else that you've sort of put your body through.
Yep.
It doesn't happen. You can see a few red dots along your arm where it's tried to come through, but
so I think
it doesn't move.
I think at that point what he'll do is just kind of with his scavenging thing and with the help of Reese, I will actually just preserve them to have them with me to try to figure it out some other time. And as far as being knackered, I'm sitting here on 2 in my might pool and 2 in my intellect pool. So I think after that and all of this, I think Averick he just collapses. I'm sorry, guys. I tried. It's just too new. It's too different. I mean,
don't beat yourself up over it.
Yeah. I'm going to try again though, at some point.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. You'll know a little bit more the next time you try.
Yeah.
Listen, we've got a great tour guide, so I'm sure we'll be perfectly safe. Isn't that right? Kind of looking toward.
Did you see him get down there face to face with that eel and throw it out of the water? That was badass.
It was pretty badass.
It was really badass. It's even cooler than some of the stuff Tolan used to do.
Well, Tolan was pretty cool sometimes.
He kind of looks at Paul and's like, back in his day, yes. But he could grumble with the best of them back at Bruin Bindings.
Oh, he sure grumbled, all right.
He had epic level humph.
But that's I'm glad that we took the time to explore this and that you maybe learn a little bit more about these eels, but we should probably get moving before I don't even know who we're meeting, but before whoever we're meeting decides that they don't want to wait anymore.
How's Reese doing? Because a lot of this is going to be how long it takes for Reese to warm back up, I assume, and also do you have dry traveling clothes, which I guess this probably did set back that time frame a little bit. And I think Averick then realizes what he's done. when you say that, it's like, and he gets back to trying to pull the water out of, prestidigitate the water out of Reese's clothes. Sorry, I should have just kept doing my job.
No, that's an interesting idea. I would have been excited to see it work first try. I think it's worth going back. You should write some notes down.
Yeah. Hey, Florence. I know you're worked at the post office. Do you have like pen and paper? I don't have tons, and I was thinking, not that I wanted to ask you to take my notes for me, but I'm kind of, he's still there's using his hands to pull the water out. Would you mind if I told you kind of some of the stuff I was discovered and you wrote it out?
Florence kind of like touches her like the big bulky clothes that were so generously given to her and kind of given to everyone when they stopped at that village called home. And she kind of reaches into a pocket and kind of comes up empty. I used to always have a journal and some watercolors on me, but it's just sinking in now that I kind of lost all of that when the airship crashed. So I don't have any of my own to lend, but if you somehow made it out with some, I'd be happy to transcribe whatever you have.
I don't have much either. Mainly we've just got the book.
Can you make like a voice memo on your phone? Or
I would say, assuming with everything he went through getting out of the airship, he probably, I would assume he's lost his phone, because you know me, I can't have a character who has a phone.
How many times has at least one of us gotten wet lately? That phone's probably wrecked.
Yeah.
Well, these phones are pretty water resistant, but how water resistant are the phones, Alex?
I think it's more if you have kept hold of it rather than anything else. If Paula's kept hold of hers, then I'd say it'd be fine. Same with Florence, but I don't picture Reese. Did Reese even have a phone?
What? Why would Reese have a phone?
I was going to say, I don't think Reese ever had a phone.
Reese doesn't bother to talk to anyone.
Can I roll to see if I still have my phone?
Yeah, absolutely. Roll a speed check.
Okay.
Ooh, can Florence do the same?
Yes, absolutely.
Can I use careful movement?
Yes, you can. Florence, your phone does not work.
She she has one of those old kind of crummy flip phones, or not flip phones. It's a slide phone.
Gotcha.
And when she slides it, some like residual water just falls out of the keyboard. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Averick. I don't think the notes app is gonna work on this."
Oh no.
Paula, you don't have a phone either.
We even spent an effort. Oh crap! Oh, I think I must have lost my phone at some point.
You think there's actually service up here?
Oh no, I doubt it. But the voice memo app probably doesn't require service. So
yeah.
This hurts my soul to say, but might I suggest writing in the margin?
I'm not doing it. He looks at Paula and just like, I think it would be great if we could put some notes somewhere. But this is your dad's book. This is Edric Amel's book on shaping and transmorphology. I can't do it. I can't. But you're a librarian, so
I just have this feeling that you'll have, and it's just a feeling, but I have one, that you might be able to get all this information from him in person at some point. And maybe sometime soon. Who knows?
Let's hope so. I mean, if you're okay with it, I guess I will write in the margins and do some sketches.
Well,
I'll
this
just
whole...
I'll just look this way, and and whether you don't have to tell me whether or not you decide to do it. I'll just look away, and what I don't know won't hurt me.
Well, this whole conversation's going on because Reese is this kind of person. He had slowly gotten up and he found his large bag of stuff that he's carried with him for however many years, and especially the last few weeks since leaving Karnan. And he pulls out a leather journal wrapped in, like, with the cord that wraps around it to hold it shut. And he just, when he goes back to sit down, because at one point Florence was near him, he just, with his arm out, he hands it to her. And he doesn't say anything because he's so tired and he's so wet.
I think out of respect, Florence will just, like, she'll gasp for a second and then take it and nod, and for the first time in her life not say anything, because she realizes how tired Reese is in this moment. And she'll kind of turn to the rest of the group. Well, maybe we can make our peace with writing in the margins of the notebook another time. It seems Reese has some paper to offer.
Oh, the biggest sigh of relief. Well, that was easy.
Well, there we go. So, do you mind, Florence? We haven't
Not at
really
all.
met or talked much. I mean, you made deliveries to Bruin Bindings a couple times.
It's you could kind of say we met around the margins.
Yeah, I guess so.
Here's to writing something together.
Yeah.
And she'll kind of get situated, set the notebook in her lap, and she'll kind of be primed and ready to transcribe anything Averick has to say.
So I think he's sort of doing that, but I also think Averick kind of keeps interrupting with, so how long were you in Karnan? And I mean, you're a long way from home too, or were.
It's funny, I think I'm actually technically closer to home now than I was back in Karnan. I was there for almost 3 years. Before that, I called kind of everywhere around Valadris home, but the place I grew up was in the Thunder Cliffs, this tiny little town tucked on the cliff sides, rows of rainbow-colored houseboats. You've never heard the name, but you might have seen it on a postcard before.
So you and Biddy, have you always been able to... He just kind of motions to his eyes.
She gives him this blank expression for a second, and it really takes her a full moment to realize that the thing Averick is talking about is her ability to see into this other side where her eyes go gold and she sees things other people can't, because it's been a long time since he's been around people who knew what she did, and it's been even longer since she's been doing it, or at least been wanting to do it. So she kind of shakes her head and goes, oh, I guess I haven't thought about this in a while. It's something I found out I could do in middle school. I was about 13, 14 the first time it worked. Before that, I had Biddy with me, and we see Biddy, her black and gold bat Anakwa, is hanging upside down from a tree near the campsite. Before that, I had Biddy with me, but I couldn't do a lick of magic. It was kind of a mystery why she was there.
Yeah, I didn't really learn how to control my magic, gosh, until I was 8 or 9. But, you know, with Clyde here, apparently, I mean, he was Clyde, like, even from before I can remember. And I guess I used to drive my parents crazy because when I would have my bottle, I would always be, and he sort of, as he's pulling this water out of Reese's clothes, I was set it on the ground and be drinking of it from across the room, and I would, he blushes deep, 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 deep red. He goes, I guess I was, I never had a wet diaper. So, but I kind of left puddles all over the house.
I'm sure.
And as he's pulling this water out, unfortunately, it's just way too close of the what he's describing. And then he kind of gets really, really red and gets all bumbly.
I'm sure your parents were just charmed by that.
My mom was very patient.
Yeah, I think that's probably how it goes when a kid pops out and then there's a bright and shining animal there next to him.
Right? Well, I mean, I guess lots of kids, it takes a while for them to settle in, but I guess that's how they knew that I guess that's why everyone thought I was going to be special and put all these expectations on me because, you know, Clyde formed early and here I was as a toddler making my parents crazy and far too precocious.
Well, it's interesting. I think I had kind of the opposite experience. My parents were really supportive, but they didn't really expect much from me in the way of magic. They said it would come, but I did not want to wait at all. I was doing every stunt in the book to try and make it happen. And I was teaching, gosh, Biddy's been Biddy for as long as I can remember. And I was making her do every trick I could think of. But it just never happened until it happened.
That's probably, I don't know. I mean, everyone's different. My parents were so excited that they just always were pushing. I can remember that I was doing magic drills when I was 5 years old of moving and changing and twisting water, and then I had tutors, and then it was the academy and reports and again special projects, and from as long as I can remember, everyone was always telling me that what I had to be and who I was supposed to be and that what big things I was going to accomplish. He gets a little quiet.
You don't have to push yourself so hard, Everett.
It's still dry clothes. He's pulling water.
I've seen you do a lot more than dry clothes just in the last couple of days.
It's so weird because it's not mine. I mean, it's mine, but it's just, when you get a new pair of shoes, you have to kind of break them in. I mean, it was the same way with the leg, and he kind of knocks, and there's a tinny sound when he on this mechanical leg, this prosthetic he has. I used to wake up every morning feeling my old leg. And then I would roll over, and here was this cold metal thing that was attached to me. There was times I just wanted to rip it or saw it or something off.
What changed?
I don't know. I guess probably brew and bindings gave me something to concentrate until one day I woke up and it I just didn't think about it anymore. It almost kind of surprised me one time when there were these couple of mirrors in a shop. So my reflection was done twice. And I saw my own leg, but because of the mirror, it looked like it was where the fake one should be. And it seemed wrong. And it surprised me. It made me realize that this is now who I am. Or part, not to define me, but I guess just part of the package deal. And soon, it sort of points down. Actually, at this point, how long does toughness last? I think it only lasts an hour. So over the course of him doing this, his sort of thickened skin has sort of gone back to normal, and sort of, I guess, eventually this will be too. And he looks down at that fin off of the eel. Maybe one day that will. It's weird though, because I don't want to lose myself.
I think that if you give yourself time and you give yourself space, and as she says this, she kind of puts down the quill and finishes jotting kind of the last thought, and she stares off into the middle distance, realizing that she needs to take her own words. I think that time and giving yourself space to accept yourself can fix a lot. That's kind of what did it for me when my eyes did that thing for the first time, and I saw the spirit of someone who had definitely passed for the first time. It scared the daylights out of me. I saw their body, and then I saw their spirit, and they were scared, and they were asking me for help, and I ran. I was terrified. And I kept running from it for a while, until kind of like when you saw yourself in the mirror and saw yourself in a new way, I ran into someone who helped me gain a new perspective on what I could do. And suddenly I didn't want to run from the spirit anymore. I wanted to do what I could to help them, because I was the only one who could. I stopped running, and I stopped being so scared. And it felt good. It felt right.
Guess we all just need to give time. Give ourselves time to break in our new shoes. Like being out here in this place, and night hags, and those walker things.
if I had a drink to toast with, I'd say something on the lines of, here's to new shoes just becoming shoes.
Well, I could offer you some of this, and there's a globe of dirty Reese water. And I just sort of smile and laugh and sort of toss it over my shoulder and sort of lands like a water balloon.
Lawrence gets a good kick out of this. I think that gives a different meaning to hair of the dog. Thanks, but no thanks.
Hair of the Astrid. There's a lot of wolf hair in these clothes, man. It's like he kind of whispers it, just like, man, there's a lot of wolf hair in this thing.
And whilst this is happening, Reese, Tuva has sort of come and her arms don't reach around you, but she's sort of come and laid herself flat on your back, feeling how cold you are, and you feel an intense heat coming from her, as if you can feel your core body temperature starting to warm up. She sort of rests her head on your shoulder. Is that better?
Everything froze for a second.
So, Tuva sort of laid herself on your back with her arms out wide, resting her head on your shoulder, and you feel this intense heat coming from her. And she's just sort of, is that better? Is that warming you up a bit more?
Yeah, that's almost too much, honestly.
Oh, and she sort of, you feel the heat sort of calm down a little bit as she pulls back, puts the set of furs in between both of you, and then lies back down on your back again.
Is this you or your friend?
My friend. Warm body temperature, apparently. That's why I'm fine. And you can see her, she's not wearing her jacket right now. She seems very toasty.
That makes sense, actually.
Were you scared of the eels?
I mean, they're definitely scary, but I'm not scared of them, if that makes sense.
I think it does. I wasn't scared of them. I was scared of the night hag thing, though. I didn't like that.
I honestly was more scared of drowning.
Do you not like the water?
I like the water fine. I just don't like fighting a night hag in a water full of eels in the dark when it's getting, or as it's getting dark, and the water was very dark, Tuba.
I can see how that would change your mind about the water. And you just feel her sort of, she's not looking at you, she's just got her head rested. She seems to be watching whatever Averick and Florence are doing. But she sort of pauses. You can feel her start to, at least the heat start to cool down a little bit. And she's like, the dragon's got a little bit bigger.
Well, you've been feeding it a lot.
No, that's what Mum says, you feed growing things.
It's true.
Makes them big and strong. But, like, she's getting real big. And she sort of pushes off your back, and as she opens up her, like, this hoodie, you see this dragon almost clung round her back. Like, on her front, but the wings and the arms reach all the way around the back as it looks at you for a moment and then stuffs its head back in her jumper.
I don't think you're going to be able to hide much longer.
I don't think I'm going to have to. I mean, my mum's not here to tell me off. Paula is, but, you know.
I think Reese manages a small smile, and he's like, I was gonna say Paula will probably tell you off.
I also think she's more freaked out about it more than anything else. She doesn't like the tongue.
I don't know. I got the feeling that Paula has a problem with secrets.
Why? What secrets are you keeping?
Isn't everyone keeping some secrets?
I'm not. I was very open about the dragon.
You were. You've been very responsible, Tuva.
I know. And she sort of like nods her head and comes and sits down cross-legged. First of all, opposite you, and then you see the dragon shift around her, and she sort of falls back onto Astrid. And you can hear that sort of, I guess that it's not a growl, it's almost like a comforted grumble as Astrid starts to warm up. And Adrian looks over at you, Paula. When does your group think they'll be ready to move?
I don't know. I hear them talking about breaking in shoes, but no one's shoes are going to be breaking in from just sitting around.
And he looks at you slightly confused, like, why are they breaking in shoes?
No, I just overheard one of their conversations. I was being nosy.
Oh. And he smiles.
Paula gets up and it starts kind of like pacing a little bit. So, what do you think we'll find in this cave? You said there's a well, but why would there be a well in a cave?
It's a magical well. It's a center of magic, not a physical thing.
Could have been a little bit more upfront about that to begin with. When you say we're going to go find a well in a cave, I'm thinking we're going to go, put down a bucket of water into some hole in the ground.
Do you want to do that?
Well, it would probably be a lot more simple. I don't know much about metaphysical, magical wells.
I thought you had one in your so-called city, Karnan.
Yeah, well, we did.
Do they have different meanings there? Do you call them something else?
I mean, we call it the season tree, but usually when I think of a well, I think about Jack and Jill.
Who are they?
Just some nursery rhyme. They go up to a well to get some water, and then the kid falls and breaks his skull, and it's horrific.
Awful.
It's awful. It's awful. You should, it's really terrible. And they sing it to children. Would you believe it? They sing it to children.
Happen a lot around your wells?
You know what? I sure hope not.
And he sort of looks mildly concerned.
I had a friend who lived out in the countryside, and I'm sure he had to go to the well every so often, but in the city we don't really have to worry about that. We have tap water and bottled water, and so makes things a little bit easier.
And he looks mildly confused, but he's definitely listening to everything you're saying. And he pauses for a moment and is like, then to avoid any more accidents, we should probably get going.
I agree, but you can try convincing them to stand up. They all seem like they're in their zones. Reese looks very comfy.
He just he stands up. He's like, Reese, Northman, you dry?
Dry enough if we've got things to do.
We have things to do. You, shoebreakers. Are you ready to go find the well?
Are you talking about us?
I think
yes, you. He sort of stands.
Yes.
We probably should go. You saw what he did to that eel.
Right. 1 foot in front of the other, then.
It's almost dry, Reese. And I'd say he's probably got, I assume, most all of it out and kind of shakes it off. There might be a little bit down around the hem, but for the most part, the big parts around like your chest and places that are important are dry. He hands it over to you.
I think if it's quiet enough, everyone can hear just the groan come out of Reese from his chest and the groan come out of his body as he stands back up and starts to get ready so they can go.
You see Rika walk over and douse this fire that's there. Adrian sort of picking up the gloves and tucking them into some of his large coat pockets, swinging the furs back over, pulls up a hood over his messy sort of blonde hair and pulls it down. Right, well, we're going that way. And he points towards the back of the cave. There's caverns underneath this island where the well is.
And for your information, it is not, and like turning toward the rest of the group, and not in Adrian though, it is not a well in which you get water. It's a very different kind of well. You know, just trying to like catch everyone up in case they didn't.
Wait, you thought it was an actual well? Like with a bucket?
What else am I supposed to think? I don't, magical wells. And...
Well, Edric is going to be near a well like the season tree. He's not going to be out here. What do you think he was thirsty?
Well, I don't think anything about him. I know nothing. I don't know him at all. You know,
Fair.
And Paul's kind of like ticked off, you know, like what, like, why would I know anything about like,
Well, he kind of like reaches down to like the everything covered. So it's like, if you need water.
oh no, I'm fine. My throat is well lubricated and I'm good to go.
Averick just shakes his head and Alice, can we use some of our recovery rolls?
You can.
I'm gonna use both my action and my 10-minute.
Mm-hmm. But yes, you can all roll recovery rolls. And Adrian starts to lead you towards the back of this
recovery roll works.
Recovery
Right below your pools, it says recovery rolls.
Right, but what is it recovering?
Your pools, you can recharge your.
It's like having a rest.
Yeah.
Oh.
It doesn't put you back to full, but like you roll the roll, and then you can put like I've got a 7 and a 6, so I can put some those points back in.
Okay.
And Adrian starts to lead you to the back of this cave, and fairly quickly you can see the roof get lower and lower. Not like so you have to bend over, but it's just above your heads, and you can see a narrow gap which he sort of swings his quiver to the side, and you can tell it's probably just big enough for Astrid as he goes side to the side and starts to shimmy through this gap into the darkness that is down by these caves. Are you following?
Averick is. Yeah.
Okay.
I have my glove on. The light
Yeah,
glove.
you can hold that out and you can sort of light the way. Tuva, you can actually see a soft glow coming from both. You're not sure if it's Brenna or the dragon, but she seems to get through this gap very, very easily. And the gap isn't there for too long as it opens up into what looks like these man-made steps carved out of the rock. You can see the water dripping from this sort of cavern ceiling. As you start to walk down, Adrian looks away, like, just be careful, it's gonna be slippery. And you watch him sort of both hands on either side of the wall, sort of edging himself down through this staircase. And as you go, you can see how it is quite narrow. You can't quite extend your arms both out to the side, and you can feel it almost gets slightly warmer as you descend in this rock. You can see weed that looks like it's been strewn across some of the pathways. They are wet, and in this almost tunnel that's dipping down deeper and deeper beneath the lake, you see these pillars, beautifully carved pillars into the stone. These look far more decorative than like supporting structures, but you see these carvings that are look both a mixture of landscape and animals. The animals seem to be bigger, like these bears and things like that, all carved into almost like a stretch. And each pillar does something different on the way down. You can see these little sort of holes, these wrought iron holes where you think light must have been put at some point. And it's odd because this looks like this could have once been a grand hall leading down. You can see the stone sort of pick up, and as you walk down these steps, for anyone who is looking, every now and then you do slip. It's like, you know, just to steady yourself, not like fall over. And you can see where it dips at the center of the step, where it's worn down from hundreds, if not thousands, of footsteps that have walked down here. Bits of mosaic seem to sort of break through and show through on the stairs themselves. I'm not too sure what they are, but they were colorful once. As Adrian keeps you all walking down this stairway. Is there anything you'd like to do as you walk down the steps?
Are these sort of pictographs things that Averick would have seen, certainly not the same animals, but before in some of his exploration? Are these like the old pictograms he and Tolan would find?
No, these are more stylized. They seem to be very decorative in the form of maybe ruins that Averick and Tolan may have seen. Not the same era, you know, it's a different style, but it's very typical of a walkway, but a decorated walkway. You can see where it was once lit before.
Okay.
Is it at all reminiscent of the basement levels of the church?
No, it's not quite like that. You can see some of the structure of the steps maybe, but they are very basic and simple. But this looks old, like old.
Been a while since I've been anywhere this old.
Who used to be here? Paula will kind of ask towards either like Reese or Adrian or whoever knows anything.
Adrian sort of looks back. He's like, honestly, I don't know. We found this place by accident, maybe 60, 70 years ago.
I wonder how many other similar places like this exist. This is breathtaking. I've been in caves before, but never one that turned into something quite like this.
Well, they tell stories, and you see him as he sort of slides off to the side again, leaning to sort of shimmy through a smaller gap and ducking under. That of an old, I don't know. It looks like someone wealthy lived here once, or something of importance. I don't know, but the kids found it by accident one time. You know, when we came out eel fishing, and we didn't really fancy going back again. I think my father was one of the ones who found it, but I don't know. It's pretty though.
Someone was wealthy enough to build all of this. Why would they choose to live out in the middle of nowhere in the cold, in the snow?
And you sort of ducks now, and you realize you're actually sort of having to not crawl because you're still able to stand up, but you're sort of shimmying beneath this sort of black rock. And he's like, well, this, for example. And he sort of shifts off to the left slightly. You can see where fallen rock. I swear as a kid I went down there as a whole nother section. This place is huge, but it's all under a lake.
Paula, it might not have been the middle of nowhere back when this was built. I mean, look at the age of these stairs and these stones. This isn't just 60 years old. This is, people lived here, a lot of people. There could be a whole city down here.
And people do tend to make their homes everywhere. The thunderclips are loud and wet and so incredibly humid, but it's a good place to make a home.
I guess home is whatever you make it. You know, you can have home wherever you want. But right now, my home is in Karnan, or so hopefully we'll find something down here that will get us a little bit closer as Paula's kind of like moving everyone along, like let's not get too distracted.
And Adrian, you see every now and then just pauses and takes a look for himself, has a deep sigh. I always wonder who they were, you know? And he keeps to walk and sort of enter this very, he sort of ducks one last time and gets on his hands and knees to crawl through. And you come out in this small chamber and you see him look forward and look around. And in this chamber is nothing but just this, what looks to be almost maybe once a square room, but it's rounded off. You can see the water dripping from the ceiling. And there's what looks like a pool just at the front, at the back, sorry. We might have a slight problem.
That doesn't sound good.
Takes out one of his arrows and dips it in the pool. This wasn't full last time I was here. This is flooded.
I mean, how much water is there? I mean, is it something that Averick could try to sort of shape the water so that we could walk through it? I mean, I assume I can't empty the pool, but could I at least kind of Moses it?
Part it, but you can tell that it's like a pool and that it was almost like an underneath bit to crawl into the next cabin side. So
it's not just like a puddle we're going across.
No.
It's that there's literally a tunnel underneath. That's a little bit longer. And yet I can try maybe take one person at a time. And
want to swim it?
Well, I could give us sort of an air bubble around us as we go through, but that's a lot of water and I couldn't do the whole group. Unless
Tuva looks at his up. I mean, I might be able to do one person.
If I could get one person.
Adrian, are there any other routes, or is this the only way through?
Well, that blocked one we just saw, there was, but we're not shifting that. Look, if I swim under, I can take a rope and at least make a line. But
there aren't any eels down there, are there?
Well, it shouldn't be. I hope not. Normally this is bone dry.
Okay, just checking.
In from somewhere, as he sort of looks awkward himself, and sort of rolls his shoulders, and he starts taking off his quiver and his heavy jacket and everything like that, and then he pulls one of the ropes out and starts tying it to this rock on your side. Right. I'm going to secure this along the route and follow if you want. And you see him step into this water. You see, oh, it's cold. And he sort of just disappears.
Yeah, the wet's as much of a problem as the cold. I mean, I'm guessing, Alice, that I assume I can't pull all the water out of this. I mean,
You couldn't pull it out. You could try and literally part it from the side, but you would need to roll probably, I'd say a 4 or 5.
Okay. I'll give it a try just to see as best I can do. So I'll go ahead because since it's also completely underwater. This is that's his intellect pool. So okay, I will use some effort. I'm not going to use a ton though because I'm going to end up with having a trouble again about not having any intellect left. Okay, I'll give it a go. Woohoo! Natural 20.
Okay. And I think we will describe what that looks like after the break. So everyone go get a drink, stretch your legs, tell your pets you love them, and we'll be back in a minute. Bye.
Yay!
Y'all, starting a hype train in the break. The audacity! The audacity! Y'all, thank you so much. The hype train, of course, will be rewarding as normal. But if we could beat level 1 and keep it going for more than 5 minutes, that'd be great. Because I imagine viewers like us are also taking a break. So thank you so much, everyone. Keep that hype happening. There we go. Thank you, V's knees. Who started this? I'm looking at you, Caruval, Justin, I see you, Fernando, Sphinx. I see y'all, alright. I'm gonna let you off this time. But thank you very much. This message in from Jay Gon's Gold. Hype train! That's actually a pretty good impression as well. It's close to how you sounded. Not... Yeah.
Hi everyone, we're back. Oh, thank you for all of those anonymous gifts. Here we're going with more hype train. Thank you so much. Yes, give me all the disadvantages to use. Averick, what does this look like as you effectively part the water?
Yeah, so I think Averick, again, sort of trying to redeem himself from the worst potty break ever, and seeing Reese just now having gotten dry and still not completely warm, and the idea of him having to somehow get wet again, I think he just really starts to try to really draw as much as he can on sort of that memory. I mean, I think even a little bit that talk with Florence sort of reminds him of shaping water, where it's been something that's been lost to him even after the accident, and now that when he got magic back, it was suddenly this different type of magic. But it was almost like, I don't know, I mean, I think he even probably used that same imagery of old sort of different thing, putting on that pair of old shoes that was so comfortable that you put them back on for the first time after not wearing them in a couple of years, and it clicks. And I think there's almost like this weird like current that starts pushing forward, and then it just draws out and just pulls all this water to the sides and pulls it. And he
Adrian
I think is a little surprised
pool.
himself.
Yeah, it just sort of stood in the pool as you do this and looks back at you. I didn't know you could do that.
It went a little better than expected. And he just gives a big smile.
And he sort of smiles back and starts putting on like these heavy coats, wraps up the rope again. And you can see that you have to get on all fours to go underneath here. And you see him just disappear beneath this sheer rock. The water creating these bizarre sort of like walls of motion with this blue either side.
Kind of nudges Reese and goes, now imagine that with lightning.
I can imagine it. I'm really excited that I don't have to get wet again, Averick.
Well, I'm glad I don't have to pull more water and Astrid hair out of your clothes. A lot of wolf hair, dude.
I know. It's like going to the beach. Find sand everywhere.
Okay, you will follow. Okay.
Let's take a dip.
And as you do, you will walk sort of on hands and knees through this cavern, this sheer rock above you. You can hear it dripping ahead of you. And you get those cold drips of water, but it does feel slightly warmer down here. And as you sort of shimmy through, you can see Astrid laying on her hands and knees, on her back, but also sort of shuffling through with Tuva very close behind her. And as you do, you can see this opening up ahead, this kind of hazy light as you come up into the open of this huge cavern. Stretches high, almost as if you were stood in a great hall, lit by green and blue. You can see there are other pools around here. They look like they're just where water is gathered. Huge stalactites and stalagmites all the way through, creating almost pillars themselves next to these other man-carved pillars. And this is huge. On the ground and up above, looking up into this almost darkness, like a night sky, with how high this ceiling is. you see where the light's coming from, as these speckled sort of dots, almost like stars of these blues and greens, sort of litter the ceiling and the walls. You can see that the green is sort of radiating from the other pools of water. This algae, this weed, has sort of got this iridescent, luminous light coming from somewhere. And the ceiling itself, like stars, but they drop. Every now and then one drops from the ceiling. And Adrian sort of smiles and looks up. Been a while since I've been here.
Pretty beautiful.
It's amazing.
What is this place?
Star caves. There's loads of them under, well, wherever it is we are right now. Hope no one's creeped out by creepy crawlies, but those things are bugs. Like stag beetles, they won't come near you. They just kind of feed off the natural glow that the algae produces, and they live here. Stag beetles are clumsy, and you do watch what looks almost like this blue star fall down, crash into another, and sort of go and find a place on the wall to land. They're hibernating. It's cold up there.
If they're hibernating, that kind of implies that maybe it warms up at some point.
Maybe. To be honest, I don't know. I've never seen them above ground before.
Maybe there was a time when it wasn't always so cold.
I mean, it makes sense. But all of this algae and this weed, and he sort of dips his foot, his boot into one of these pools, and you see the light ripple, this green. And you can see underneath the water's surface is this like seaweedy, this sort of lake weed, but it's got small flowers that remind you for a moment of Khan and the ones that you saw in the streets as they open and light up. You can see one of these stag beetle-like things in the water swimming almost like down towards it, using these big beetle-like wings to push itself through the water. And you can see these flowers from the weed also seem to climb the pillars, the stalactites, the stalagmites, all of it. All of this is natural light. It's not bright, but it's quite calming.
As much as I like to sit here and soak it in, as much as I wish I had my phone to take a picture, there's supposedly someone waiting for us.
Supposedly. And he nods. Anyway, and he looks back at Averick and is like, if you were getting excited about those carvings and drawings in there, let me show you this one. And he sort of heads a bit further into the cave, down what looks almost like a doorway once, it's like it's just been carved through the rock, and he just ducks underneath it and goes out into this new cavern. And this is almost a perfect dome. And looking up at the ceiling are hundreds and thousands of drawings. You can see these sort of lights sort of decorated almost like around the edges, not a light themselves, but these bugs have sort of clung to certain parts of this room. the floor itself is circular. It looks as though it was heavy flagstones at some point torn down. And the walls are littered with these drawings. Some look to be carved. Some look like additions made later. But there's stories on these walls. There's so much here.
This is amazing. I mean,
right?
We saw a couple. I assume these are like the ones that he's seen before, the pictogram stories around other wells, with old dead wells. We saw some of the old wells that would have maybe a dozen of carvings like this, but nothing like this. It's Tolan would love this.
We'll have to bring him here.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. He starts to look around because at other wells, it was where they would often sometimes see an unbonded, a remnant in an aquay. And he starts to look to see if he sees any here, and knowing that they often fade, they become very hard to spot.
If anyone else is looking as well, could you all roll an intellect check that everyone was looking? Or perception, if no.
Oh, wait, an effort. I'm throwing 2 effort.
First of all, Paula, you start walking around this room and you're looking at these drawings. And these are deeply carved. These look like care has been taken here. And as you look at them, you can see almost things you recognize. These bizarre drawings that you saw beneath the church of these tall figures with antlers that stretch tall. And then a huge giant asleep, resting amongst the mountains. And a bridge that stretches to nowhere. And the moon's up in the sky. And as you look at this, you can see someone at some point definitely painted these moons. One is yellow, one is pink, one's blue. It's all seemed to have chipped away and fallen aside. And there is so much detail in the mountain itself and this bridge. And as you walk past, you notice this sleeping giant has patterns sort of placed all over its body. And you can see a silver, almost like a silver leaf pressed into it. And Reese, you see it because it relates to you. You see wolves running. Each has a person by their side. And there's lots of them. There's so many people in this image, and it's not identifiable whether it's man or woman. or anything like that. These are very simple figurines. Wolves running by their side, almost to the height of their shoulders. Through the mountains, through forests, by lakes. A carving of a dragon flying past the moons, over the mountains itself. And Florence, you, for a moment, it's more that you're looking around at all of these things, at the stars, the moons themselves. And your eyes fall on something that's almost like you can hear it, rather than see it. And you see what looks like a fortress, something, but it looks magnificent. It looks like something you would have found in the old storybooks. And a war, people fighting. Horses, these sort of painted wisps of color above all of these warriors' heads. And then almost off to the side, a portrait of, you guess maybe as a woman, but again it's very simple, holding a huge broadsword in front as if resting it at their feet. Long hair, looking forward, and behind her it's like the more you look, the more you see. Like stars. People behind her. Hundreds, thousands. Each one has something different about them carved into it. And it's almost just runs round these walls. And Avric, as you look, you see, you're not too sure what it is because it looks like it's actually been scrubbed out, like chiseled out. Something. But beneath it are people with arms raised, reaching up towards it, mouths open, as if they're singing. Some of them do not even have their feet on the ground, as if they're raising up towards this thing. And there is a bit of a clatter from somewhere for a moment. And you can sense one of those lost in Archway in here. A blue wisp. Seems to move around the room. There's no real form to it. But you see it swirl up to the ceiling as if it's trying to find its way out and then fall back down again. Again and again.
I pointed out to the others, and there's one here. Tolan used to call them remnants. It's what we were hoping for, ones that either couldn't or wouldn't find their way back to a well, rejoin the magic of the world, to bond them to something. He sort of taps on his leg like this. Some of the ruins out in the wastes, whatever happened to those cities, there's sometimes a half dozen of these. This one's far gone, though. we would bump into some that were confused, and they would even attack you. He sort of leans over to Florence and goes, "Do you think you could help it? It's lost."
Help the Nakwe, the remnant you call it.
Yeah. I mean, it was once attached to someone who probably died, and for whatever reason, it hung around. Now either it's too weak or too confused or just disoriented. It can't find its way home.
I can't say I've ever helped one of them before. It might be a little more your wheelhouse, but I don't know, maybe if we're lucky in a way, I guess. Someone they're familiar to might also be around as well. And with a little bit of hope in her heart, Florence will blink really hard, and her kind of honey brown eyes will shift into that bright gold that matches Biddy's color, and she is kind of looking out into this space for a spirit, for residual energy, for something that kind of seems to tug at her in the same way that this remnant kind of tugs at Averick.
Okay, could you roll an intellect check for me, please?
Yes.
To test something.
I will use an advantage on this.
Okay. You reach out, and only you see this. You can see that wisp of blue move around this domed ceiling. And you can hear scratching, like whatever it is scratching at the walls by the drawings. In particular, by that carving you saw of that woman. And you just get this sense of old. And this may be the oldest soul you've ever felt. As it moves around this ceiling, constantly heading back to this carving. It doesn't sound sad or confused. It sounds more of longing. And you just see it in that cool color. And almost as you reach out to it, it hovers just in front of your face. Almost like it's reaching back.
I think Florence sits for a moment with that heavy, reaching sensation. And the others can probably tell that she's not here, but she's kind of somewhere as her vision kind of looks off into that middle distance. And she closes her eyes for a second and tries to focus herself on just that spirit in front of her, and she'll kind of reach out a hand towards its core, and what she wants to do is almost grab it and sort of point it and thrust it in the direction of where that remnant is. And her hope is that maybe they've just been missing each other by just a little bit for all this time.
You sort of reach out with your hand, and this blue wisp sort of circles it for a moment before, and it's bizarre because you can't see it, before you feel very small talons as if a bird lands on your fingertips. As you throw it up, you feel the flap of the wings. And Florence, you watch it go, this blue wisp, as if it circles up higher and higher towards the very point of the ceiling. And Averick, Reese, and Polla, you see Florence lift her hand up, but by that carving of this huge carving of what looks like a warrior, this woman, almost etched by an invisible hand, a magpie lands on her shoulder. And Florence, you're back. It's almost like as soon as that carving finishes, it's gone.
And Florence blinks really hard and her eyes go back to normal. I think maybe they found each other.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. You know how the tree was our well? Averick sort of goes out and motions to, sort of almost spins in a circle. This. The drawings. The story. The story is the well here. I could be wrong, but when an Anakwe would go back to the season tree, I mean, they would almost like become part of the tree. And that points over to etching, became a part of, I could be wrong, I don't know, but I've never seen anything like that. Not a physical manifestation. I turn to Adrian. Adrian, do you know? I mean, have people studied this?
And he smiles as he's looking up at the etching itself. No. We're not really meant to come down here on our own. As I said, my brother's in trouble. We don't know what it is. And sometimes it's best not to know. But I've seen this carving one other place before, and he reaches out and touches the one of this warrior. The bridge. The bridge to the North Fae. Bridge of Thara.
Do you know the story that maybe ties these two places together of some great warrior and her bird in Aquai?
And he smiles. Not really, but I like to think that, as you said, a great warrior won a battle and defeated whatever this is, and he gestures over towards the sleeping giant. I don't know about the rest of it, but I don't know. Just let your imagination run wild, I guess.
Averick points to this one that had the people where someone had carved something out. Tolan didn't tell me much. I mean, we talked some while he was between saying how much he didn't like Valadrins or the airship. But he did once say something about singing or being a singer. He was almost in his sleep. He was sort of dozing off as he was reading, and we were having tea. These people look like they're singing to you?
If Reese takes a closer look, does it look like the people are singing?
It does.
Yeah, Eric, it does.
I wonder what they were singing to, and why would someone deface this? Oh no. Whatever they took wasn't just a drawing. I mean, think about it. The magpie. Whatever someone took from here, they took a soul or the essence of someone or something. Right? I mean, he kind of looks around. I'm totally postulating here.
Paula, like while a lot of this has been happening, Paula's kind of like been like almost like pretending to be holding like a sniper or like a gun or something, and like looking through the scope towards all the giants and like pretending to like shoot all the giants that she sees. But when Averick turns around and asks that, she puts her imaginary gun down. You know, Averick, I thought we were just coming here to meet someone who knew something about my dad. And of course, it led to more of these mysteries. And at this point, I'm starting to think that maybe it's not as, maybe it's more simple than we think. Maybe we should just chalk it up to fate or destiny, or that's causing this trail everywhere we go. Because honestly, trying to understand it and make sense of it all is so overwhelming for me. Like, there's just incessant. The giants, the guardians, the magpies. How could, if you can put it together, I mean, if anyone could put the pieces together, it would be you. But, and she kind of cocks her gun and points back at the giants. But, you know, I've given up at this point. And she starts pretending to shoot down the giants again.
Something's happening in the world that's never happened before. And think the only way to do anything about it, even if it's just to accept it, is for us to try to figure out what's happening. And if it's just something like the church and what they did, he sort of thinks about that for a second. What they did with what Toland and I brought back. I mean, what if the oil smear in the sky and the giants breaking through the season tree and this sort of weakening between us and somewhere all started because Toland and I dug up something we shouldn't have and started messing around with it. I mean, we literally did something that no one had done before, but also you could say is horrific and abominable, and I don't even think I know the right words. And then the church built on that and did even more, and now the giants are giant or whatever. He knocked a fleet of Eladrian airships out of the sky, destroyed the season tree.
No, you can't do that. You're digging yourself into a hole. All of a sudden you're saying it's your fault that these giants tore us from the sky. No.
But we don't know. That's why I've got to figure it out, Paula. I mean, we need people to shoot giants as well. But I don't think I'll ever really sleep well until I know at least try to know why this is happening and what it's all leading to.
I'm inclined to believe what Maruk was saying. Dunera's waking up. It's been asleep. Did what you and Toland do play a part in it? I don't know that you'll ever find that answer. But a lot of this, I think, is just the natural cycle of everything. Much like spring follows winter, summer follows spring. Magic ebbs and flows and pools in places. And he looks around as he says that. I mean, the last well we were this close to was the season tree, and it was also a door. And didn't Toland say he was in a place with many doors?
Maverick wasn't there.
Yeah, no, he did. He did say something to that effect. Man, living through major historical events is just the worst.
So do we think this place might be something similar if only we know how to use it?
Thing is, if if it is a door, do we want to open it? Look at what happened to the season tree.
That was quite the day.
At the same time, though, someone was supposed to be here for us. Maybe they're on the other side of the door if it is here. There's so many threads to try and follow.
Paula just yells, "Hello! Is anyone there?"
Your voice echoes around this domed ceiling, and you can hear it echo all the way back through the tunnels you came from.
Can Florence try something new here?
Yeah.
So I think as the group lingers on this thought, she finds herself saying again, just, what is this place? Because we're all kind of talking about our questions and our theories and bringing in some of the things we've learned from other adventures. And what I want to try using is something new she's gained called reading the room. So she gains knowledge of an area by speaking with spirits or residual energies from the past. I can ask the GM a single matter-of-fact question about the location and get an answer if applicable. So I think the question Florence wants to ask is, and she's just really posing this without thinking she'd get an answer of any kind, and it's just, what is this place?
And as you say it, it's almost like for a moment you look around and just you see wisps of color with almost like these very faint, almost outlines of people walking backwards and forwards around this domed room, back through the corridor you came, as if it's an everyday thing. And there's one in particular that you seem to catch your eye on as they walk through, and they keep on walking to the other side of the room, and they disappear through this tiny archway. Like, it looks very standard, very basic, but almost like carved out of the rock. A wisp of red color beside them.
I think Florence stops dead in her tracks, and then she almost begins describing what she's seeing to the rest of the group to the best of her ability. Everyone, I can't quite explain it, but I feel like I'm seeing into the past. I see people in this room, and sure enough, there's some kind of archway that doesn't seem to go to anywhere, but it definitely seems to go somewhere. I want to know how it works. And if possible, she's kind of trying to pose a second question to the room.
You look at where the spirit went, and you can see that's a tiny archway carved out of rock. And it looks to have been boarded up. It looks like something's fallen down and blocked it, so you couldn't have seen it beforehand. There's a tiny sort of like wooden doorway there. It looks like a storage cupboard kind of door more than anything else. It looks like a wooden, simple door with this huge flagstone. It looks like it's been propped up against it or fallen. You're not too sure.
And once again, she'll describe what she can. Y'all, we have to come over here, and she'll pace across this, I think, large room to this collapsed in cupboard door and start taking a closer look. Here, this, I'm still, I don't really know what I'm looking at, but this was something. This was a door or an arch or something. So one of you, y'all know more about this than I do, but we're looking at we're looking at whatever we might be looking for.
And you all see this just storage cupboard shaped door covered in rocks and things like that.
Should we clear this out to see what's here?
It's as good a guess as any.
Let's bust this open. Paula gives in a good kick.
So, yeah, I'll use Muscle of Iron to clear the rocks away.
I'll say you and Reese can clear it. The major thing that seems to be blocking the way is like this massive flagstone, more than anything else. And it takes both of you to heave all your strength towards it and Adrian to move it. But you clear this door and you think also the rocks are here for a reason, because as you touch the door, the wood almost crumbles and you can feel it's damp. Just this, probably from being beneath this lake for so long, you can feel the cold has set into it and the damp itself. And you can see where part of the door breaks away into another chamber.
Averick will look through. Is it like pitch black, or do my eyes work?
Your eyes work as you look into this room. And Paula, could you roll an intellect check for me, please?
Could this potentially be like an archaeology or a history or anything like that? Nope. Just a...
Straight up.
All right. I'm actually gonna use. I have a whole bunch of auto successes. I'm gonna use my auto success.
Okay. Averick, you can look in and it is dark. You can see bits and bobs. It looks like a lot of rubble in there. Florence and Reese, what are you doing?
I think Florence is excitedly also trying to clear some of the rubble as well. She's short and squat, but also got pretty beefy arms as well. So she's doing what she can to help, and I think still kind of like excitedly kind of feeling that the energy and the spirits in the room, and kind of almost letting her own imagination run wild with what this place would have looked like in the past.
What about Reese? Is Reese just shifting more stone, or?
Honestly, I think with how exhausted he is and how short that rest really ended up being, he probably, as soon as everyone crowds around and starts peering in, he stops trying to move the rocks and lets them look.
And you all sort of crowd around this door, and Paula, at this point, it's like you feel a hand rest on your coat pocket. Not your own, another. And you can hear a whirring and heat. And a soft glow comes from your pocket.
And Paula feels something. I think she'll quickly kind of whip around, like, who the fuck is touching me?
There's no one there. But that glow still remains.
There's a presence here. Florence, do you see?
No. You hear that whirring again, that clicking. And you remember that sound. The sound of when the compass spins uncontrollably.
Paula pats her pockets, finds the compass, and pulls it out frantically.
You pull it out
pointing
almost
her
like
love at it.
a stumble as you hold your hand over it. You see it swirling round as it's glowing brighter and brighter, and then it stops dead. Surrounded by all of it to glow and start to run around the side of this compass as the needle points directly into the room ahead of you. I think that is where we will leave it this week, because if no one knows, I have a wisdom tooth coming through and it's being a pain in the butt. So otherwise, thank you everyone. Please first of all check out the links coming up in chat now. That includes the Discord. We do have a channel just for this game. We'd love to hear what you think, or if you have any theories as to what's going on. Also, if you would like to get into a game, drop Scrat a DM on Twitter. Come and play some games with us. I promise it's good fun. Also, if you've missed out on anything and want to catch up, head over to YouTube. All of our games are in playlists. So you can head over there and check that out. A huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors. First of all, in the form of Hero Forge. As you can see here, we're doing some more stuff with them very soon, which I'm excited about, so keep your eyes open for that. Also, the Deck of Many, who did the Humblewood, which is one of our viewer games if you want to come and play in it. It's incredibly wholesome. And last but certainly not least, Mage Hand Press that do Dark Matter, and we also run their Faith Folio as one of the viewer games on this channel as well. Otherwise, keep evoking emotions, and we'll see you all next week.